And we are live. Kira,
Geoff.
this is our 60th episode.
It is?
I mean,
Oh,
that's like, 60 episodes. It's like 2 months of work there. If we were doing a daily one, it just, time flies, right? It
it's
really
kind of
does.
crazy to think that it's been 60 episodes.
I know. Like, like
Hey, happy 60th episode, Geoff.
happy 60th episode, Kira. It's been quite fun so far. With that being said, on this 60th episode, uh, we always have just there's always something happening in the world, and today we wanted to, I was texting with Kira yesterday, and we were talking about um and Kira, maybe you can kick us off with this, but you know society and people today are very quick to want to label people in all aspects of society and the world. And you had texted me something regarding that, and I think everybody's thinking that as well. But what was it you were saying about that specifically?
Where to begin? By the way, happy Red Friday. I was on a call today with an amazing human being
Yeah.
that is a former Navy SEAL 6 team member.
Yep.
And I'm not part of a military family. I don't know if you are, but he was like, "Make sure you wear red today. It's Red Friday." And I asked him like, "I don't know what that means." And it's remember everyone deployed,
Oh.
and you wear red on Fridays. And I just had no idea, never heard of it. I thought I was maybe the last person to jump on this. So I guess it's something they do, and so I'm sporting my red in appreciation and gratitude for those who and recognition recognize
Recognizing.
recognition,
Yeah.
um, recognition of those who have been deployed. So there's that. Back,
Happy Red Friday. Happy Red
happy Red
Friday.
Friday.
Kira's got she's representing her red. I've got my red mic.
Yes.
Um, so that's my, that's my version of it. But yes, well, that's great. Good cause. So happy Red Friday for those who don't know. Um,
Yes. So labels. I mean, I could talk at nauseum about this. And it's actually interesting because our brain, so neurologically, loves to label because that's how we make sense of the world. We like to categorize, think of our brain like a computer, and it's almost like data mining everything that comes in at like tiny, not even split seconds. It's like down to like the 0.00001% of time that our brain is constantly matrixing, if you will, and trying to organize all the information that comes into it, right?
yep.
And labels are like an easy inner laziness toward taking something from the past and labeling it into the future or into the present and just assuming that that's making assumptions on something. The
Yeah.
it's not so much the labels that's the problem, it's being consciously aware that you're using that label and what that means.
I mean, a big one that comes to mind just off the top of my head, when you mentioned labels, is we've done an episode on it, the generational labels with millennial, Gen X, boomers, and Gen Z. I mean that's one that stands out right away,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And I have absolutely fallen victim to you, and we all have, to where it's like, okay, I'm a millennial, and as you are, and it's always like, okay, boomer for the gen, or for the boomer generation. Then you've got the Gen X, and I have absolutely used those labels incorrectly because those labels for generations are made up. right? They were created after World War II, and just decided by basically the advertising world in trying to categorize people into buckets. And inherently, if you read through studies, and there's a plethora of them, that there is actually no inherent difference between the generations. Really, we create that in our head, then it becomes a self-prophesizing type of thing, and it just goes around and around in a loop. So there's actually nothing inherent. Just like men and women, how often did we say men are from Mars, women are from Venus? The brain is different each, and that's actually inherently completely false. When we look at men and women and their brain, it's almost identical. So it's a laziness that we fall victim to into these traps like toxic masculinity and gaslighting, and now it's coming up. People are labeling things cults when they're not actually cults. It's just a lazy form of trying to make sense of the world. So you just stamp your label on and then dismiss it.
But
And it's like destroying society as we know it.
and yeah, that's true. Why do you think that we need to label? Why do people have the what is that makes people want to label things? Where does that come from? I mean, it goes back centuries. It's just part of who we are. It's the natural instinct, right? What do you think's
Yeah,
behind that?
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think like I mentioned, it's like a mental shorthand to leveraging a past experience, and then it prepares us for what lies ahead. So
Hmm.
instead of consciously making an effort or critically thinking about something, it's much easier for us to see things in the collective than it is from an individual standpoint. So, for example,
Really?
let's say I had a really bad experience with a man in my past, whatever it is, pick something, and I then perceive all men to have toxic masculinity. So it's easier for me to bundle, and my brain likes it, if I just bundle everyone together and put a bow on it and just say, this whole group is terrible. So instead of saying, no, no, let me think critically, just that one person that I dealt with was difficult, not the entire collective. And that's the part, it's not the labels that are the problem. It's the fact that we just so casually and carelessly use them, and they're just flying out of our mouths without truly understanding what we're saying and understanding the definition of these labels. And we're not really consciously doing it. We're just kind of just like vomiting stuff out.
So the instinct, like if someone's acting or behaving a certain way, the instinct is to naturally put them with a tribe or a group or a greater whole so that we can rationalize it, right?
Yeah. So like there's a professor at UCLA, Dario Nardi, and he's a professor of neuroscience of personality. And the way he describes it, and I'm going to quote it, is sometimes brain regions activate in a circular pattern. So that's resulting in a variety of brain areas lighting up in a loop, right? So we move from perceiving something to recognizing it to evaluating it and then finally reacting to it. And then it loops back around.
Okay.
So the problem with this is the reactions, the mental reactions start to get shorter time wise. And so instead of taking in new information, we kind of just use past information regardless of whether or not it's accurate. We're like skipping a step within the evaluation part. And that's where the consciousness comes from, where if our brain goes through a pattern of this perceiving, recognizing, evaluating, and then reacting, we're taking out the evaluation part. So by labeling without consciously doing it, we take out the evaluation part, aka the critical thinking part of our brain, and just say, oh yeah, it's probably, yeah, that person's probably toxic. Oh, that's, and meanwhile you're not really consciously doing the evaluation part.
So okay, so say those four steps again, just so people. So when somebody behaves a certain way, or you observe something, there's what was it? You perceive something.
Right. So you perceive it, you recognize
You
it,
recognize it.
you
So
evaluate
perception.
that.
You have your
Right.
perception. So you recognize something, and then you
Right.
evaluate it, and then what?
No. You perceive it,
Uh
you
huh.
recognize it, you evaluate, and
Yep.
then you react.
And then you act. And what's happens is people are missing that evaluating step, that evaluation step.
Right. So they'll just kind of get a little lazy with their mental thought patterns
Mm-hmm.
and just say, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna reiterate the same interpretation that I've used in the past and just place it onto this as well.
Why
So,
does the brain do that?
well, it's faster for us to process. And if we're not, something I really am a very big proponent of is, and I'm a very vocal about it, is neuroplasticity and neuroscience and the study of our brain and our brain patterns. A lot of times we think that our brain just does things or our emotions just happen. For example, if someone gets very angry and throws a glass, we say, or and that person's like, well, you made me angry. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not inside your body. I can't make you angry. You allowed yourself to get angry. You unconsciously decided to have no control over your brain. You have to actually control the thoughts that happen in your brain. So I could wake up and say, shit, it's raining. What a fucking terrible day it's going to be today. Or I can get in control of my brain and say, oh, it's raining. That means, the grass is going to grow and there's going to be flowers. And this is great. It'll wash my car because I haven't washed my car in a week. So I choose my thoughts. It's just that everyone's getting really sloppy and really lazy and just stamping labels on everything,
Yeah.
even though they're not accurate at all.
It sounds to me like a big part of that is what they say about. I mean, obviously, this is connected to meditation and all of that, and just the way people think, how we process thoughts, meditation. In Headspace, which I did their course several years ago, they talk about thoughts and how they're like clouds passing. As one analogy he uses. Andy Puddicombe, I think I pronounced his name right. Probably didn't. Uh, but they talk about thoughts are like clouds, or thoughts are like cars on the highway, like you're watching the freeway go by with your thoughts. And so you learn in meditation and in Headspace that your thoughts are just thoughts. And so when you can see your thoughts like that, you then can evaluate your thoughts and then have more, be able to better analyze things, or evaluate things. And so I think that the point I'm getting to with that is that's very interesting that people don't, we naturally don't, instinctually do not do that when we often think that we do, but we're not. And I'm trying to process how we don't do that, because when I think situations through, I'm always kind of looking at my thoughts, and maybe Headspace helped with that. And I've had a lot of living in the moment and such through acting training and such, where you literally learn to I really think a lot of this is connected to living in the present, always in the present moment. That's what they also teach in meditation, as I'm sure you've had. And it's amazing that a lot of people don't, and so it surprises me. And I wonder how. I think we naturally think about it for ourselves, and I think about how often I do it. But I do see exactly what you're saying, and I wonder why we don't do that more, and how we as a society, as people, can work to possibly do that more, or do a better job at it. But it connects. I think the point, though, is that connects to the labeling, because we skip over that evaluation step and automatically just categorize, right? That's how this connects to the labeling. We don't want to look at that thought. We just let our unconscious guide us, and we just naturally label things like, oh, he or she's a millennial, or oh, that person's in that cult, or oh, whatever, right? And
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, okay, you're a millennial. Oh, that means you're lazy and entrepreneur. You know, it's immediately just sandwiching things together and then blurting it out without really like looking at the person
mhm.
and seeing them as an individual. And we do that literally with everything. I mean, I had someone DM me today and said that he thinks that feminism is like a cult. And I pushed him on it, I challenged him on it in a respectful way, saying, well, let's look at the definition of cult. A cult means that you are unable to leave. And if you do, they track you down and hunt you down. I mean, it's a very serious claim.
Yeah.
I think why, and he was like, well, yes. But men are subjected to feminism, so wouldn't you consider that a cult? And I'm like, well, no. So, what I think that needs to happen is, I think you're absolutely right. There's a reason why it's called mindfulness. A lot of that word is thrown around constantly, and nobody really talks about it. It almost loses its value in some respect. Mindfulness equals gaining control over your thoughts, just like you were mentioning. Headspace is an amazing app. Meditation on a daily basis will help absolutely 1,000% someone to stop and evaluate things. And to your point, it's staying in the present. For me personally, as someone that watches, such as yourself, or not such as yourself, but you're in the same kind of genre that I am, where we will politely and respectfully call people out when they're using such labels. Scott Adams does the exact same thing, right? He did a whole thing on NXIVM and it being a cult, and how his idea was that NXIVM is not a cult per the definition of a cult, which is fair, because I think we're throwing around words without truly, one, knowing what they mean, and two, if it's even an accurate label for what we're talking about. And the problem with the labels are, and with anything really, is because we're emotional beings, we're emotional species, we attach emotions around to that label.
Mm-hmm.
Which then, if you use that label and then you use it again, and then you use it again, the emotions get really strong, very, very strong in our bodies and our minds. And we start to attach that emotion to the label, which can affect the usage of it and the perception of it.
And it automatically creates that label. And I find it interesting what you were saying. Yeah, Scott was talking about cults, and he mentioned these, just to kind of segue for a second there. There were three ways that I guess a cult is defined, and he talked about how it's one, they don't let you leave. You're not allowed to leave. Two, they keep information from you that's happening otherwise that you wouldn't know, and three, they like cut you off from the world, so you don't necessarily know. You only know what's happening with them, and so I think that's interesting because we. Do you think that? I mean, is a cult is a? Do you think that's a type of label? Before we get to your next point, like how do you think a cult ties into this? I guess I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you take, I think anything can be a label. I think the minute, here's an example. When Playboy first started, and you had Hustler and Penthouse, and Penthouse came, years later. Larry Flint with Hustler had to go through so much censorship, and then it's all pornographic, is they would always label Penthouse, Hustler, Playboy, and lump it all into one as pornographic, which you actually have to look at all three of those very separately, because Playboy is not pornographic. They're not showing actual sexual images. But because it's easier to just lump it all together and point the finger and say that's the cause of society going in, downhill, we easily label things like that, right? So cult is very similar. If it has a sense of secrecy, members only, add one more variable to that equation, it's cult. It's like, no, just because there's three variables out of 120 that would be considered a cult doesn't necessarily then equate to a cult. You can't just lump everything that's members only, secret society, and it's like, oh, cult, because then that would mean Freemasons is a cult, Catholic Church is a cult. I mean, you could go down a whole road here with
the media is a cult.
Media is a cult. Google is a cult.
Is a cult.
If you start to go down the road of just lumping everything in like that and labeling everything, because of Google has secrets.
Yeah.
They won't allow people. I think there's like 2 people in that company that know how the algorithm works. Everyone else, no idea. So could you consider that a cult? So I think what happens is, one, we have to call people out in a very respectful way and say, no, that's incorrect, when they use a label without thinking. I think I'm constantly preaching to make critical thinking great again, because it's sorely lacking, especially here in the US, where it's just super easy to slap these labels on things and then just be like, okay, done. You're a pedophile, or you're a predator, or it's like, oh my God, none of it's accurate. A lot of it's inaccurate or based on previous notions of something, So I think, one, we have to really focus on calling people out on it. And 2, also being cognizant of how we use the labels. I was in a Clubhouse room that I moderate, I think it was last week, and I didn't know that the title, I forgot what the title was, but it's something like toxic masculinity. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Even if we're talking against using the word toxic, or the label toxic masculinity, we're still perpetuating the usage by using it. So you have to be very careful in the sense that, one, it's not the labels that are wrong, it's the usage and being consciously aware of how you're using it. Personally, I don't think Americans are bright enough to know when and when not to use labels. I think we just need to err on the side of individualist versus collective. So instead of lumping everything into a label, maybe think before you do that,
And I think this happens across. I mean, first of all, yeah, a cult. I mean, it brings up other questions. I mean, we talked about all those possible examples. Is Scientology? That's a cult. People say it's a cult, and then there's other examples of cults people have used. I'm trying to think of what other one. QAnon
QAnon,
is
yep.
another one.
Well, I don't, I think, I mean, we have a mutual friend of ours that was in Scientology. And this person continues to get calls every single day.
We do? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they get a call. They were in it for like a year and a half, maybe, like back in 2006. And they literally get a call every single day.
From
Scientology is known to not allow their members to leave, and that is a sure sign that it has cult-like behaviors.
That's one of the three things that's Scott mentioned, not letting people leave.
Right.
And he was saying Nexium wasn't a cult because people could just come and go, it wasn't. They didn't stop you from leaving.
And I think it actually, what you just brought up just made me think about this in the sense that it's very easy to label, for example, a man that's hitting on you and you're not happy about it. And you say, oh, you're a sexual predator, or you're manipulating me, or you're a sexual, whatever. Meanwhile, that person's just hitting on you. So
that's another grouping. That's another natural labeling. Kira, I think, brings this up because you're a men's advocate, right? Is that how you define?
Yeah. So I'm a lifestyle consultant and men's wellness advocate, and I hear this constantly, where it's like, well, I was just hitting on a girl, and then all of a sudden, I'm now known as like, sexual predator who manipulates women. And it's like, whoa. And I think men are in this weird funk where it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And women are very trigger happy with the labels. I will make a hypothesis that I believe women are more label happy than men.
Really?
Yeah. They throw around this toxic masculinity like it's, just like snow. Like, everyone's label this person, throw the snowball at him, I mean, it's just crazy, the labels.
And you're saying that happens. It's quick to. It's part of the quick to label. It's like just one of the many forms of it, right? Where people just want to quickly.
Yeah,
label.
And I think 2019 was the year of narcissists. Everybody was labeled a narcissist.
That's another label, right? If it's not working out and my relationship's failing, the other person's a narcissist, right? That became the default.
100%. We've been hearing that. 2019 is when narcissist became the word of that year. And we still hear it. Now, last year into this year, it's toxic masculinity. That's still been a very prominent word that's thrown around,
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't help when we continue to fuel it in our discussions, in clubhouses, in the media, articles, blogs, and it just continues the loop. So if we stop using the word, I don't know, maybe it'll actually go away,
So
there just needs to be a lot more critical thinkers out there who don't just vomit out whatever is on their brain. And, I am also going to make another hypothesis. I believe that women are more likely to label because they attach emotions around the label due to past experiences.
They attach the emotions around the label to. Okay, interesting.
So then, because the emotions are so powerful for us, and emotions really fuel and drive us, and irrationally, they use it as a weapon in a lot of cases. The minute a woman says that a man is toxic masculinity, I mean, that's a weapon. That's weaponized. You're weaponizing words. You're using your past experiences, not thinking clearly, and all these emotions wrapped around it, and then labeling it.
because
And then
that
you cancel that person.
because that person isn't necessarily uh, toxic. Like, it's not like they may just have something you disagree with them on, is what you're saying, right? And so
That's the
it's just
problem,
another
right?
label, right?
That's where the cancel culture comes in, where we label someone as X, which basically wipe hands clean, like, oh, you're a sexual predator. And then immediately just completely ruins that person's life, whether or not it's actually accurate. And that's the problem where with labels is because there's not a critical thinking and that piece of the evaluation part, and we're sloppy and we're lazy with our thoughts, and we just kind of label everyone whatever we feel like it. People are getting their lives ruined.
I would say,
Yeah,
yeah. And I would say critical thinking, and just and on top of that, just overall awareness, and just being aware. It goes back to the in critical thinking, it's all connected in, but it goes back to the looking at the clouds on the highway, or the cars on the highway as our thoughts, looking
right.
at the clouds as our thoughts. But that awareness and that critical thinking, and the understanding of the subjectivity, which I believe reality is subjective.
Right.
It's just my belief. All of that factors in to taking a step back and realizing how quick we are to create labels, be it that's a cult, or that's toxic masculinity, or that's all of these. What are the other ones? That person's a
Gaslighting.
millennial.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah,
Mansplaining and gaslighting, and uh, I mean,
gaslighting.
I mean, it's and to your point, and you mentioned it earlier. A lot of times these labels are just slapped on because we just don't like what the other person's saying. So then we just say that they are a narcissist because we
And
don't
nurse.
like how they made us feel. So then we just diagnose them because narcissism is a diagnosis that needs to happen from a doctor. So for people to say that person's a narcissist, I ask, are you a doctor?
Yeah.
Because you can't, they may have narcissistic tendencies, behaviors, whatever, but because we're lazy, we get rid of all the extra words around narcissist and just say, oh, that person's a narcissist. Instead
And
of actually saying narcissistic behavior, we just are like, we're doctors now, narcissist.
and real narcissism is actually somewhat rare, right? It's actually much more uncommon than people think. We're just labeling somebody a narcissist because we don't like what they're doing. That's what it comes down to. We're quick to, because we're lazy in our thinking, we're not evaluating, no awareness, not critical thinking. We just naturally want to put someone into that category because of our lazy thoughts. And I think we're especially this way in this country, right? And it's gotten worse the last five. I feel like it's really gotten worse, and it's led to what's now people define as this cancer culture, um, because everybody wants to just label, and that's gotten worse. Like, it's
Yeah.
really gotten worse in the last 5 years, and I think that we need to turn that around somehow, and I think that the labeling is a big part of it. Recognizing how quick we are to label people, and just because it's something they don't like. And that's not to say that labels in some forms don't exist, because they do. We just are missing the evaluation form of the thinking, and therefore in turn we're quick to label people, and then it in turn leads to them being quote unquote canceled. And I think that's something we all need to work on. right? In all
Yeah,
forms
absolutely,
across.
100%. I think it doesn't help. It's a combination of a lot of things. Social media, um, the character limit on Twitter. If you just want to like blurt something out, it's easy, just a one word label, you know, memes, the advent of memes and how that will push out, um, all kinds of labels. I think there's just been a lot of things that have added and fueled to it that has made us um, grow a little weak in our critical thinking. And, I would say, to people that are watching that, how do you combat this? Well, you don't fight fire with fire, right? So if you yell at someone and say, back at them, they're not going to listen to you. You can respectfully tell them that they're being lazy in their thinking. And that I said that to many people, and they have had to stop and think about what that means, you know? Um,
So some people don't even know. Like, there's some people getting their awareness about that their thoughts exist. They
oh
just
my God, Jeff, there's people that like, I'm a Pilates
wow.
instructor and I'll be like, point your foot and they'll flex it. And I'm like, how,
So
like there's no body awareness, there's no mind awareness. For a country that is so into wellness and mental health and meditation and all of that, we are regressing as it pertains to living in the present and being mindful of our thoughts. Absolutely 100% regressing. No matter that we have all these apps, that help us stay present and lower anxiety, I absolutely believe that we're regressing back to a time that we've never even been before.
maybe it's social media that's really the cause here. Maybe that's what's escalating it is because social media automatically speeds things up because of the internet. People are in quicker contact and talk to each other more. Before social media, we didn't have all of this stuff at our fingertips, at our awareness, where we could just get mad at each other about. People would just go out and watch the sunset, or they'd read a book, or they'd go for a hike because you didn't have that ability to contact everybody so quickly and stir each other up. So maybe that's what's ultimately causing it. And I think we need to ask also: is that a good thing, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Social media is such a quick response type of format that instead of critically thinking about something, it's much easier just to skip the evaluation part because that takes too much time. And we just kind of label because that's
yeah,
easier, that's more fun. And on top of that, guess what else it does when you label someone? You get a reaction from someone else.
out of
Some
them,
right, or out of the copious amount of other people seeing,
the
you write
audience.
the audience. The minute you write something witty and cute and labely, that labely is my own word.
Labely. Cool.
Like
It's a good
Maybelline,
word.
only not. The minute you label something and someone reacts with like a laughing emoji, that's a positive reaction.
Yeah.
You're going to do it again. Just like if your audience is clapping as a comedian and they're continuing to clap and they are cheering and they love you continue to say those same jokes. So if we stop it by not validating it, if we see someone use those terms, we either completely ignore them, don't give them the validation, or you respectfully call them out and say, that's incorrect. You're using the word in an incorrect way. So I think that's what it comes down to. Social media has given everyone a stage. And the minute we start clapping our hands because of someone's, um, whatever someone's posted, that only fuels them to use it more. So it's on all of us to stop it. It's easy to point the finger and say, well, they're the ones. Like, no, no, no. We're all in charge of ourselves and how we react to everyone else. If we continue to give them fuel and audience applause, they're just going to continue down that road. So if we stop, it'll stop.
More accountability for that specifically, right? Because there was too much accountability where it became like labels for everything, and now we need to take a step back, and the people labeling, like, we need to hold that hold that accountable because it's just gotten out of control
Yeah,
with the decision
100%.
making.
I mean, everyone needs to be strong with their convictions. I mean, I have yet to see a woman hold another woman accountable for calling a man toxic or for calling him a sexual predator when he's not. I have yet to see it. I obviously have a purview of tiny, I only see a tiny fraction of what goes on in the world, obviously. But I personally have yet to see another woman call another woman out on their bullshit and their labeling, other than myself.
Yeah, and that's
You know,
and my point of view on that is that's something I stay out of it. Like,
well, that's the problem,
and
Geoff.
yeah, yeah,
You are adding to it by staying out of it because it's you times the rest of the world. The rest of the world, all the billions of people in the world. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to back out of this. But that's the problem. This is
yeah.
why society is the way it is because no one will stand up and say, I'm calling BS on that.
And
I
this
mean,
isn't just about that, but about like men and women. But in all of this, is what you're saying. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
of course.
oh,
I
yeah,
don't care if you're black, white, blue, purple, a male, female, whatever you decide that you are, human beings need to hold each other accountable.
mm-hmm.
We hold dogs accountable for when they go to the bathroom in our houses when they're puppies.
Yes.
So, why is it that we're not holding human beings for their shit that they spread all over the planet?
Well, when in a way, when people create the label and they do that, isn't that their version of holding them accountable? Though, like if you say that person's a millennial or that person's a whatever, isn't that is holding them accountable, right? But it's in the wrong way because I think people feel like they are holding each other accountable by these labels, and I think
Yes,
that's
the label needs to be, it's not the label that's the problem. It's it's the unconscious use of it. That
okay.
people are like, oh, he's just toxic. Like, what? You mean because he dumped you, he's now toxic? Or do you see what I mean? Like, you need to pick it apart and say, no, he's not toxic because he broke up with you. He just broke up with you because you're an asshole. I mean, there's this easy way out is to label. And Americans love the easy way out.
We
We
need
don't
to
like,
hold the labelers accountable.
yes, hold the labelers
Hold the
accountable.
labelers
Hold
accountable.
the cancelers accountable.
Yeah.
If you're going to cancel someone, bring it. I will absolutely help you in your canceling of the world. In terms of let's have a conversation as to why you feel you need to cancel X, Y, and Z.
I
Like
mean,
because when someone cancels someone or something, everyone backs away. No
yeah.
one's actually going on the offensive and saying, hey, you don't have any right to cancel that person or whatever it is, And it's like, we need more people to get on the offensive and stop being on defense mode the minute someone raises their hand and says, I think that person needs to be canceled. I'm labeling them a sexual predator. It's like, girl, no. Or guy, like, what are you talking about? Like people need to stand up for what's right, you know?
I mean,
Oh,
some other example. I mean, this week we had, Lil Nas, the rapper. I think I'm getting his name right. He created like some shoes that had like a Satan, like these Satan tennis shoes, and Nike got mad and did a lawsuit and canceled these former shoes. I actually kind of thought everything he did was funny and creative because like people like you see people dress up as the devil for Halloween. You see this in films and TV and stuff. And all he was doing was creating some shoes around that as well. And he got canceled for that. Another one is, Chris Harrison, host The Bachelor, said some things that people didn't like, and he's no longer the Bachelor host, at least for this upcoming season. Another one would be Colin Kaepernick from a few years ago, when he was doing the kneeling. I mean, that's another one. There's so many, there's a very long list. And it's also, I don't think it's like people think it's political, especially right-wing people. They say that it's the left is canceling the right. I see it happening on both ways. It's happening everywhere to everyone. And that's what we need to work on. That's what we need to work on is calling out these labelers.
Yeah. Well, it's happening everywhere. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. My hairstylist here, the name of her brand, she's young. She just started her own salon, and she named it Good Trouble Salon as like a fun, good trouble. Not even recognize or not even knowing that it would cause such a stir, she got canceled. This is like a 20-nothing-year-old girl, and her partner that wanted to start their own salon and got canceled because she's white. And apparently good trouble is something that John Lewis said in terms of in relation to Black community and getting into good trouble. So then she was canceled because she used it as a name for her salon, and she immediately had to change it. There was no offensive to it. It was like, well, I'm white and I don't want to offend people, and that's not what I meant at all by naming my salon. In no way did I mean to offend anyone. But she had to back down. She had to change the name.
So this is happening everywhere like this.
This is happening everywhere. So in Podunk, Kennesaw, Georgia, where I live, up to every city, there's all of that going on where people immediately, they don't want to lose business. They don't want people to cancel them. So they just fall on their sword and say, you're right. My apologies, I'll change it. So then it just fuels the mob. I suggest that we need to start holding the cancelers accountable. And instead of just laying down and taking it, we need to actually take a little bit deeper dive into who these people are, where are they getting this information from, why they feel they need to cancel, all that stuff.
I think it could be, yeah, go ahead.
I just feel that people are getting away with canceling the most ridiculous stuff without anyone really saying, hey, I'm staying open and you can like it or not. You know what I mean? And it's like, there needs to be a line somewhere drawn,
And the canceling as a result, it comes from the labeling. Like that's where it's all rooted, that we're so quick to labeling. But I actually think, too, it could be coming from outside sources, just influencing, other countries and stuff. Just getting in the minds, using persuasion, using whatever. I mean, this is possible to influence what people are thinking and causing, distrust within our own country, causing people to not get along. Like, where is that coming from? Is it within the country? Is it coming from elsewhere? And from outside the country, in the country? Anything's possible. But I think it's hard to figure out where that's coming from specifically, right? Because
frankly, to me, I'm not entirely sure it matters where it's coming from. We need to be conscious about it. And it's conversations like this that will help people wake the fuck up and start using their brain a little bit more.
Yeah.
And maybe instead of laying down and getting kicked by someone that's calling you out on total bullshit, you stand up for yourself and say, you're absolutely wrong. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm not changing whatever you want me to change. Now, if it's inherently racist or misogynistic, I mean, if it is blatant, yes, of course that person needs called out. But if we're talking very innocent stuff going on, and because there's people with pitchforks wanting to burn things down, and lighting things up and burning things down, yes, I'm sorry, we need to hold those people accountable. We cannot have a Salem witchcraft type of thing going on, because that's basically what's going on every single day is Salem.
And it didn't used to be this way. It's gotten bad in the last 5 years. It's gone downhill in that direction, and I think that hopefully we can eventually get people to realize this more, that it's happening everywhere, and that it's that is this how people define? Is this another label? Because you hear people say woke, the quote.
Oh my
woke.
God, I can't.
So, but what is that? What is woke? That are they saying that woke people are the cancelers? What are they saying with that? Woke?
Yes, woke people would be considered the cancelers. Yes. So
okay.
You want to be woke. You want to be on that side of and what that means is that you are literally the people that use woke are people that think they're higher consciousness, so that they've reached another level in their consciousness, and they actually haven't. And
so they're calling themselves woke.
Yeah.
They're calling themselves woke.
Yeah.
Well, that's lame, because woke is another label. It's however you define, right?
The woke society, the woke culture, it's ridiculous. I mean, all of these words, I refuse to use them. I only used it in my tweet with Rose, toxic femininity, because I was throwing it back to her like it was a tennis match, where I'm like, oh, if you are going to label men as toxic, then let's play. I'm game, then let's talk about female toxicity if you want to go down that road.
Yeah.
I mean,
I totally get it. All right. Well, hopefully people have taken a lot of this in. I know we both gotta jump and wrap this up, but it's a bigger discussion. Cancel culture, that's happening everywhere. It's gotten worse in the last 5 years, but it comes from awareness, critical thinking, understanding people have different. Understanding our thoughts, seeing them as, it comes through meditation and awareness, I believe. Seeing our thoughts as clouds on the highway, or as cars on the highway, seeing them as clouds in the sky. It comes through awareness of our thoughts and not being so quick to want to label people, which in turn leads to canceling them in all aspects of society. So if anybody has any thoughts or wants just feedback on that. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that helps would be just meditation, right? And just getting that awareness about things. Because I think you have to have awareness for critical thinking. Critical thinking, people think they're critical thinking, and they're not necessarily, right?
Well, we always think we're a lot better than we actually are.
Yeah, right. That's the natural, exactly. Yeah. So, and that's where bias factors into, and confirmation bias. So it comes through that awareness, and that's how you raise your game in all aspects. So, by the way, I love that we have so we talked about red at the beginning. We have the launch colors today, red and black, which are outstanding. But Kira, episode 60, we're 60 episodes in. We're going to start having some, just a final announcement. We're going to start having some links, at least in the YouTube, probably on the other social media sites too, where people can quick link to different parts of our discussion as we go along. We're going to have kind of a more detailed description for people. So that's in the works. And here at Geoff and Kira Live, we're the future. The future is Geoff and Kira Live. Any final kind of wrap up thoughts on it before we go?
My last thought is time to hold people accountable. Hold people accountable. Stop using labels that you don't know what they mean. That's it. Happy Friday. Happy Red Friday.
Hold people accountable. Lee Miller, thank you for joining us. Yes, I'm working on another Mandela Effect video. If you haven't seen my videos, they're on YouTube. I've got like 50 Mandela Effect videos, and I haven't made one in several months, so I'm due to make one. Yes, Lee, one is coming. Thanks for joining us, Lee. Hold people accountable, everybody. Happy Friday. Go out there, have a great weekend. And episode 60, see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Kira.